Hello again, Tony here, back on my channel once more, this time with another deck profile. As you know, the release of Phantom Rage is around the corner, and with it comes support for two of my favorite decks. The first being Phantom Knights, and the second being Infernity. And for those who don't know what Infernity are, Infernity is an archetype that came out in the 5Ds era that primarily revolved around resolving effects while you have no cards in hand. To compensate for this odd restriction though, most Infernity cards come with an effect that push for an aggressive build-a-board playstyle. As such, playing Infernity can be seen as akin to gliding your hand above a buzzsaw, as you attempt to build the biggest unbreakable board possible, knowing that should that fail, you have no backup plan whatsoever. Despite this, however, Infernity have seen extreme meta play over the years. From the Arc V era to the Zexo era and even the 5Ds era, multiple random cards that have been released continue to support the Infernity aggressive playstyle, and I'll showcase that as I go through the deck profile. Regardless, I think I've droned on enough. Without a further ado, let's get into the deck profile. The first and most important Infernity card that we're playing is one Infernity Archfiend. Infernity Archfiend has two effects, both of which only work while you have no cards in hand. Should you top deck him, you can special summon him from the hand. More importantly though, should you special summon him in any way, he can add one Infernity card from the deck to the hand. It's important to note, however, that this effect is not a hard once per turn, and as such, as long as you have ways to summon him back, you can continuously get that search effect off to add more cards to your hand. And that's generally going to be the Infernity playstyle. You're going to find ways to either summon Infernity Archfiend back from the graveyard or from the deck to continuously get that search effect off to grab more combo pieces to continue building your board. An example of this kind of playstyle that you may have seen is something like Dark Warrior, which continuously abuses Armageddonite using cards like DDR or Zephyros to continue building a bigger board. But unlike the Dark Warrior deck, which may only summon Armageddonite maybe 5 to 6 times, the average Infernity combo will summon Archfiend back upwards of 12 times. And that's thanks to some of the amazing support cards that Infernity comes packing with. The first of such support is 2 Infernity Necromancer. As the name suggests, Infernity Necromancer can summon back one Infernity monster from your graveyard while you have no cards in hand. And it's important to note that, like Archfiend, this effect is not once per turn. As such, as long as you have a way to continuously bring back your Infernity Necromancers, you can always bring back an additional Infernity monster this way. In fact, in an average Infernity combo, you'll find yourself not summoning not only one Necromancer, but both Necromancers back from the graveyard to continuously bring back 2 additional monsters. And if you factor in that most likely that monster will be Archfiend, it means that each of these Necromancers, upon resolution, will summon back Archfiend to get 2 additional searches each cycle. Another such support that we play is 2 Infernity Mirage. Mirage, while you have no cards in hand, can tribute itself to summon back 2 Infernity monsters from your graveyard. And it's important to note that, like the Infernities before it, this effect is not a hard once per turn. And while Mirage cannot be special summoned from the graveyard, he is still searchable off of your Archfiend, and you can still special summon him from the hand and deck. As such, it's not uncommon to summon both Mirages during your turn and just tribute them to either summon 2 Necromancers or Necromancer and Archfiend to continue your combos that way. Rounding off the Infernity monsters, we're playing 1 Infernity Beetle and 1 Infernity Patriarch. Beetle is here just purely as a tuner. Technically, should you play more Beetles, you can tribute Beetle while you have no cards in hand to summon 2 more Beetles. But since we don't, he's just there for the tuner. Patriarch here, however, is a little more interesting. Should you have no other cards in hand, Patriarch can special summon himself from the hand. And as such, in most cases, he's a good initial search off of Archfiend to put an additional body on the field to either do an Xyz or Link play to get your combo started. Moving on to the next line of support, we're playing 2 Tour Guide of the Underworld. Tour Guide, believe it or not, is a 1-card access to your Infernity Archfiend. And that's because Tour Guide can summon either your Archfiend Eris or your Fiendish Rhino. Archfiend Eris, should he be sent to the graveyard, can add any Infernity monster from the deck to the hand, including your Infernity Archfiend. Rhino, on the other hand, when he's sent to the graveyard, will send any fiend from the deck to the graveyard, including in most cases, your 2 Stygian Street Patrol. Stygian Street Patrol can be banished from the graveyard to special summon any fiend from your hand with 2000 attack or less. And just with these cards alone, you could probably see how this combo is going to go. What's going to happen is I will normal summon my Tour Guide, and that will allow me to special summon my Archfiend Eris from my deck. I'm going to link my Tour Guide and my Archfiend Eris to summon out Cherubini. From there, Archfiend Eris will trigger and allow me to add my Infernity Archfiend from my deck to the hand. I'll then activate Cherubini's effect to send the Fiendish Rhino from my deck to the graveyard, and that will allow me to send my Stygian Street Patrol from my deck to the graveyard. And assuming I have no other cards in hand, I can then banish the Stygian Street Patrol to special summon the Archfiend from my hand and then start my combos from there. It's important to note that I'm only playing 2 Tour Guide despite it being at 3. And that's because one of the big risk factors of Infernity is not being able to dump your hand fast enough to start your combos. Tour Guide, while powerful, is still a normal summon, and seeing too many Tour Guides in hand means I may not have a way to empty out the rest of my hand to even resolve that Archfiend effect. As such, I'm playing the 2 such that I may see it often, but not 3 such that I see it too much and brick with it. To alleviate this brick problem, we're playing 3 Supreme King Darkworm and 1 Supreme King Gate 0. The idea behind these cards is pretty simple. Not only is Darkworm a nice special summon from the graveyard, but suppose I open a brick hand that contains a Darkworm. What I can do then is I can activate Darkworm to automatically place Supreme King Gate 0 from my deck in the opposite scale. And now from there, I can Pendulum summon monsters from my hand that are equals levels from 1 to 4, which is practically my entire deck. And as such, I can get rid of all the monsters in my hand while still conserving my normal summon, but also potentially triggering special summon triggers like Archfiend as well. This, combined with the fact that we're playing the 1 Starleaf Seyfert and the 3 Odd Eyes Revolution Dragons to search into this Darkworm, means that in an average opening hand, I'll probably see this card most of the time to brick out of bad hands. Rounding off our monsters, we're playing 1 Danger Jackalope, 1 Danger Tsuchinoko, and 1 Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. The dangers are in here purely because they're level 3s to make Cherubini that can also potentially get bricks out of the hand. But we'll play the 1 Dragon Buster Destruction Sword because we're playing an all-dark deck, and we're also playing the Union Carrier engine. And while the Extract Lockout can be extremely useful, it's the extra 1000 attack that Union Carrier gives to your Archfiend that boosts Archfiend's survivability, which allows you to enable other support cards that we'll showcase going forward. Moving on to spells, we're playing 1 Infernity Launcher. Infernity Launcher is a continuous spell card with 2 effects. Once per turn while face up, I can send 1 Infernity monster from my hand to the graveyard. More importantly, I can launch my launcher from my field to summon back 2 Infernity monsters from my graveyard. Essentially, Infernity Launcher just kinda does it all. Not only is he decent setup with the first effect, the second effect essentially allows me to summon back Archfiend or Necromancer an additional number of times to just continue my combos and boost the Infernity Pain Train a little harder. The next spell we play is 3 Void Apocalypse. While usually an Infernoid card, Void Apocalypse has that nifty effect that allows me to discard 1 card from my hand to send 1 Fiend from my deck to the graveyard. What this means in an Infernity deck is that it means I can discard any potential brick in my hand to set up my graveyard with things like Stygian Street Patrol or Archfiend Eris. Finishing off our spells, we play a bunch of other cards to help improve our spam. We're playing the 1 Instant Fusion, special summon level 3 and level 4 fusions to help with Xyz or Link spam. We play the 1 Foolish Barrel to dump monsters from our deck to the graveyard to set up combos. We're playing the 1 1-for-1 to summon Mirage from the deck. We're playing the 1 Call by the Grave because we hate hand traps harder than any other deck. And we're playing 3 Forbidden Droplets. Forbidden Droplets is extremely useful in this deck going second because not only does it turn off your opponent's board, but sending additional cards off your hand means that we have less of a requirement to go off with a bricky hand. Moving on into the traps, we're playing 1 Infernity Barrier and 2 Infernity Break. Now, if you've ever seen a deck profile refer to their counter trap as the Infernity Barrier of the archetype, this is where it all began. An Omni archetypal negate, Infernity Barrier allows you to say no to any card as long as you control a face-up Infernity monster in attack position and no cards in hand. Break, on the other hand, lets you banish 1 Infernity card from your graveyard to destroy 1 card on the field. And what's important to note is that Break can banish Break. So it's very easy in a subpar board to end up with just 1 Infernity card in your graveyard and double Breaks set. And the idea is to activate the first Break to banish the 1 Infernity card to destroy 1 card, and then activate the second Break to banish the first Break to destroy a second card for an easy 2 card disruption. Rounding off the traps, we're playing 3 Infinite Impermanents. As you may have noticed, we're not actually playing any hand traps, and that's because hand traps have a tendency to brick and conflict with the Infernity strategy. Impermanence, on the hand, being the fact that at least I can set it, means that it is probably the only playable hand trap that Infernities can play. Moving on to the X deck, we're playing not only our 2 instant fusion targets, but also 1 Dugaris the Timeless. Now, if you've seen my Dark Warrior deck profiles on Spanko's channel, you'll know that I use this card in that deck to summon back Armageddon Knight an additional time to get an additional dump. In Infernity, it's a very similar concept. Usually when I start off my combos and I special summon my Archfiend for the first time, I can search into my Infernity Patriarch and then special summon him as well. I can then from there overlay these 2 to summon the Dugaris to detach the 2 monsters to summon back the Infernity Archfiend and add a new card. This in turn allows me not only to put an additional body on board, but it means that I don't waste my Archfiend effect to just get the singular Patriarch and stop my combo from there. Moving on to the synchros, we're playing 100 Eyes Dragon and 1 Void Ogre Dragon. So you may notice here that I'm not playing Savage Dragon, and that's because in this deck, a lot of times I end up clogging my spell and trap zone to the point where I might not even be able to equip a link onto Savage Dragon. And if I don't equip the link, I don't get the counters, and if I don't get the counters, I don't get the negate, so I'm not playing the Savage. However, the important thing to note here is that 100 Eyes Dragon is your combo extender and your Void Ogre will be your negate. In a situation where I think I may not have comboed out hard enough, I can summon 100 Eyes Dragon and use its effect, which lets me banish one level 6 or lower dark monster from my graveyard to copy its effects, to copy something like a Mirage or Necromancer to continue spamming out my Archfiend a few more times. If I feel like I've built my combo well enough though, I'd rather summon out Void Ogre Dragon, which is a spell and trap negate while I have no cards in hand. Moving on to the links, we're playing a lot of Link 2s. That's because in a lot of situations, you may end up with a dead Archfiend and a dead Necromancer on the field that you just want to send to the graveyard to get revived again. And as such, just a Link 2 is an easy way to do that. We're playing the 1 Cerberus and the 1 Phoenix because they're removal on the side. We're playing the Cherubini because we're playing the level 3 engine. We're playing the IP Masquerena because it is your most reliable Link 2, and we're playing the 1 Union Carrier because we're playing the Buster Lock. Moving on to the Link 4s, we're playing 2 Saryuja the Skull Dread. So Saryuja is just another way to abuse Archfiend Surges. In the course of my combo, I might end up with enough monsters to make a Link 4, and in my last Archfiend summon, I may search out something like another Mirage or a Necromancer. In this case, I can link those monsters into the Saryuja and make use of its effective special summon from my hand to summon out the monster I searched to continue my combos from there. On top of the Saryuja, we're also playing 1 Avermax because he's a decent beater, and 1 Appaloosa to put up extra negates or break Nibiru's early on. So it's around this point where I would probably show you a few combo tutorials using this deck. However, it's important to note that Infernity doesn't really have a specific combo. In most cases, you'll be making use out of whatever you open in your opening hand to build the biggest board that you can possible. As such, I have nothing really set to show you. But what I can do is show you a few test hands and the resulting boards I can make from them, and if you guys like what you see, comment down below and I might make a follow-up video showing more of those test hands. Anyway, without further ado, I've already shuffled up the deck, let's get into it. So starting with our first test hand, we have the following. We have 1 Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon, 1 Infernity Archfiend, wow. We have 1 Infernity Break, we have 1 Supreme King Gate 0, and 1 Infernity Mirage. I think by virtue of just opening the Infernity Archfiend means we have nutty combo, especially since we also have full Pendulum scale. So this is what I think we can do. First off, I'll activate the Odd Eyes Revolutions effect to search for my deck for a Supreme King Dark Worm. I'm going to activate Dark Worm in the left scale and then activate my Supreme King Gate 0 in the right scale. From there, I'll set the Infernity Break and then Pendulum summon from my hand both my Archfiend and my Mirage. This will trigger my Infernity Archfiend since I have no cards in hand and allow me to add my Infernity Patriarch. Since Patriarch is the only card in my hand, I will special summon it to the field and then overlay it with my Infernity Necromancer. This to summon out my Dugaris. I'm going to detach the 2 materials from my Dugaris to summon back the Archfiend once more, this time triggering its effect once again to search for my Infernity Necromancer. From there, I think I can link away my Dugaris and my Archfiend to summon out my Nightmare Cerberus. I'm then going to normal summon my Infernity Necromancer since I did not do a normal summon this turn. I'm going to activate my Necromancer's effect to summon back my Infernity Archfiend. My Infernity Archfiend will trigger once again, this time grabbing me a second Infernity Necromancer. I'm then going to link away the Necromancer, the Archfiend, and the Cerberus away, this time to summon out a Saryuja Skull Dread. Saryuja Skull Dread can then activate its effect to special summon my Necromancer to my field. I'm going to activate the Necromancer once again, this time summoning out my Archfiend once more. Now, this time, activating Archfiend's effect, I'm going to search a Infernity Launcher. I'm going to activate the Launcher, and then link away my Archfiend and my Necromancer to summon out my IP Masquerena. From there, I'm going to activate the Mirage effect, tributing it to now summon back both of my Infernity Necromancers in my graveyard. Then I'm going to activate one of my Infernity Necromancers to summon back my Infernity Archfiend again. From there, I'm going to activate Infernity Archfiend's effect. Let's say I summon it to this zone as Z. And then this time, I'm going to search for an Infernity Beetle. I'm then going to activate the Infernity Launcher effect to take this beetle and send it to the graveyard, then activating my second Necromancer to once again bring back the Infernity beetle. From there, I'm going to link away these two level 3 Necromancers to summon out my Cherubini. I'm going to activate Cherubini's effect, now sending a level 3 Fiend to my graveyard, in this case being my Rhino, and Rhino will send me my Stygian Street Patrol. From there, what I can do is I think I could take the Cherubini, the IP Masquerena, as well as the Saryuja, to make a link 4, this being my Appaloosa with 3 negates. From there, I can activate my Launcher effect, sending it to the graveyard, and this will allow me to summon back both my Infernity Archfiends, Necromancers once again. Then I'm going to take the Beetle and the Archfiend in my field, link those away, and summon out a Union Carrier. Then I'm going to trigger both of my Necromancer effects, first to summon back the Beetle, and then to summon back the Infernity Archfiend. Archfiend now grabbing me the last card, being my Barrier. From there, then I have a Tuner level 2 and 2 level 3s. I'm going to Synchro Summon with these monsters to summon out my Void Ogre Dragon. And finally, activate my Union Carrier to equip my Archfiend with a Buster Lock. And this is what we end with on just our opening hand. We have 3 negates with our Appaloosa, we have a Spell and Trap negate with our Void Ogre Dragon, we have a Infernity Barrier to negate pretty much anything, we have an Infernity Break to pretty much remove everything, and on top of that we have an Archfiend that's equipped with a Buster Lock. And this is especially key. See, Barrier is only maintained while you control a face-up attack position Infernity monster, which is your Archfiend, but Archfiend being only 18 means that your opponent can just summon a 1900 beater and run it over, and that could be a problem. However, thanks to the Union Carrier lock here, Archfiend is actually at 2800 and locks your opponent out of the X deck, which means your opponent has to special summon a monster with 2900 or more attack from their hand, not from their extra deck, to get over the Archfiend. And that's not factoring in the fact that you have an Infernity Patriarch in your graveyard, which protects Archfiend by battle once per turn. Thus, that means you have upwards of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 forms of negation, and your opponent casts out all that with essentially no real one card out. You can't use Dark Ruler no more, obviously because of the barrier. You can't use particularly the droplets because these are still live even through droplets, and obviously the Buster Lock. So all in all, this is a pretty nutty hand. Our next test hand will consist of the following. We have 1 Infernity Mirage, 1 Void Apocalypse, another Infernity Mirage, 1 Forbidden Droplets, and 1 Fiendish Rhino. I think we bricked. Oh, nope, yep, we have definitely bricked. See, usually in this case, I could probably just edit this out and do another test hand, but I think I'm going to keep this, because this is a learning moment, and it does showcase some of the problems Infernity have. First off, in this hand, I have no way of setting up a combo that empties my hand out while still getting access to Archfiend. Theoretically, I can activate the Void Apocalypse and send the Rhino, and this will allow me to dump an Infernity Archfiend and a Stygian Street Patrol, which I can use to not only summon out both my Mirages, but still empty out my hand. But since Mirage requires me to summon back 2 Infernity monsters, I actually don't have enough Infernity monsters in that method to use either Mirage's effects. Likewise, should I use Apocalypse to send the Rhino to send 2 Infernity monsters, I now have no way of getting rid of both my Mirages from my hand to trigger either of their effects anyway. And that is kind of a big problem. Likewise, the other thing that we can look from this is that if you really think about it, this hand is extremely susceptible to hand traps. If at some point you choose to just Ash the Void Apocalypse, or Ogre the Void Apocalypse, or just pretty much stop either one of those dumps, my hand is essentially 10 times worse. And through these, I want you to take this as, again, a learning experience. The idea behind this is that Infernity is a pretty nutty deck, but by no means is it something like Rocket Link or Infernobles, which can play through multiple hand traps and work with any hand. Infernity is a deck that can make some pretty big boards, but it requires specific hands and a lot of ideal conditions to do so. Our last test hand will consist of the following. We have 1 Infernity Patriarch, 1 Danger Jackalope, 1 Infinite Impermanence, 1 Torque Out of the Underworld, and 1 Fiendish Rhino. See, this is actually a unique hand because I think we do have full combo, but the fact that we can do it without a Pendulum scale means that we also aren't clogging up our Spell and Trap zone. So to start, I'm going to normal summon my Torque Out of the Underworld and summon out my Fiendish Rhino. I'm going to set my Impermanence and then activate Danger Jackalope's effect, doing a quick shuffle from our hand, and then discarding the Danger Jackalope to then, in this case, summon out Danger Tsuchinoko. Since the last card in my hand is Infernity Patriarch, I can special summon it from my hand, and once again, I now have no cards in my hand. I'm going to link away the Tour Guide and the Rhino to summon out a Cherubini. Rhino will now trigger and send a Stygian Street Patrol to the graveyard. I'm going to activate Cherubini's effect, sending the level 3 Archfiend Eris to the grave, and Eris will now search me my Infernity Archfiend. And now you can see where we're probably going to go. I'm going to activate the Stygian Street Patrol in my graveyard, banishing it to summon out my Infernity Archfiend. This time, I'm going to search for my Infernity Launcher. From there, since I already have the level 4, I'm going to overlay the Dugaris, overlay for the Dugaris, and then detach these two to summon back the Archfiend once more. This time, once again searching for my Infernity Necromancer. From there, I'm going to link away the Cherubini, the Archfiend, and the Dugaris to summon out my Saryuja Skuldred. I'm going to activate Saryuja Skuldred's effect to special summon my Necromancer to the field. I'm going to activate Necromancer's effect once again, this time summoning back the Archfiend, and then activate Archfiend effect once more to search for a second Necromancer. I'm going to activate Launcher's effect now to take that Necromancer and send it to the graveyard. Then I'm going to take the Necromancer and the Archfiend to link away to summon out my IP Masquerena. I'm now going to activate my Launcher's effect, sending it to the graveyard to once again bring back my 2 Necromancers from the graveyard. I'm going to activate my Archfiend's effect, my Necromancer's effect, to summon back my Archfiend, and then activate my Archfiend effect, this time searching for an Infernity Barrier. And this is where it gets interesting. I'm going to link away the Tsuchinoko, the Necromancer, the Archfiend, and the next Saryuja, this time to summon out a second Saryuja. I'm going to activate the effect of my remaining Necromancer to summon back my Archfiend. Archfiend this time searching for an Infernity Mirage. I'm going to activate my Saryuja's effect to special summon the Mirage. Then I'm going to link away the Necromancer, the Archfiend, the IP Masquerena, and the Saryuja to summon out, this time, a 4-negate Appaloosa. From there, I'm going to activate the Mirage effect, sending it to the graveyard to once again summon back both of my Infernity Necromancers. From there, I'm going to activate my Necromancer's effect, once again summoning back my Infernity Archfiend, this time searching me an Infernity Break. I'm going to set the break and then link away my Necromancer and my Archfiend once again to summon out a Union Carrier. Then I'm going to activate my last Necromancer's effect, unused, to summon back the Archfiend once more, triggering the effect to search my last Infernity Break to set it, and then I'm going to activate Union Carrier's effect to equip my Archfiend with the Buster Sword. And now this is the end board we end with. Since we didn't have Pendulum Scales, it means that we actually can now set our full back row. And what we end up on is, once again, the Archfiend with 2800 attack that your opponent has to run over with the Patriarch engraved to protect it, and Appaloosa with now 4 negates. But instead of the Void Ogre, we have 1 break, 1 imperm, because we opened it, 1 barrier, and a second break. We end up with more spell and trap negation than the last board. And this showcases that regardless of whether opening the Pendulum Scale or not, you can end up with some pretty nutty boards that your opponent has to open multiple cards to out. And that's going to do it for our Infernity deck profile. Honestly, this has been one of the hardest deck profiles for me to film, partially because filming seamless combos on the fly is somewhat hard to do. Regardless though, I think Infernity is one of those decks that continue to get good playable support as long as there's cards that support spamming playstyles. As such, maybe one day one of you guys can take what I've shown you today and probably do well at a regionals or something whenever those come back. Anyway, my name is Tony Yang. This has been an Infernity deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it because I am tired as hell, and I will see you guys next time.